Must have been a tall person before. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Second Unitarian Church. I'm Rob Muller, a member of the Board of Trustees, and my pronouns are he, him, his. Today, we're in person here in the 2U Sanctuary at the Admiral at the Lake and meeting virtually on Zoom as well. We're glad you're here, whichever way you're attending. If you're in the sanctuary and would benefit from hearing assistance, we have hearing assistance devices available. Please see the tech crew in the back. Because of ongoing concerns about COVID transmission, we encourage people to wear masks during the service. This prevents transmission of the virus and helps us center on the needs of those who are most vulnerable. We especially welcome newcomers this morning. Finding a new community and making new connections can be challenging. Know we're excited to have you and look forward to getting to know you. If you're new with us today, please say so in the Zoom chat or mention it in person after the service. If you'd like, they're blue mugs, and you can use those to signal that you'd like to engage in conversation with others. We also always need people to help in the kitchen after coffee hour, and that's a great place to see old friends and meet some new folks too. Our worship today is led by Reverend Jason Lydon, along with Harris McKee as worship associate. Music this morning is provided by the 2U Choir, Tom Clues, Thais Brazlowski, and our director of music, Carl Kennedy. Our time together requires a large group of people who make possible the worship, music, and technical production of our services. They're listed in your order of service, and we thank them all for their ongoing contributions to our congregation. I have a couple of announcements for you this morning. On Wednesday, Valentine's Day, February 14th, we're going to be welcoming members of the migrant community to our church for dinner and conversation. This is a potluck gathering and is the beginning of figuring out the best ways for us to act in solidarity and support for recent immigrants in our city. 6 to 8 p.m. on Wednesday, and if you have questions, Alicia Obando is around for your questions. And hope to see you on Wednesday. I hope you're also feeling excited about our annual Canvas Kickoff workshop today, immediately following the service. Please join us for some soup, bread, and coffee as our sanctuary is transformed from a worship to a workshop space. Come back in and join us after the service. This is a time where we really need everyone's participation. Resourcing our church takes all of us. And also, please do complete your current year pledges so we can see what our gap this year looks like. Over the next month, we'll be hearing from members of our congregation about why they pledge to support the ministry of Second Unitarian Church. This week, we have words from Berlinda Brown, after which we'll hear from Harris McGee, who will lead us in our call to worship. With that, I'd like to welcome Berlinda to the podium.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Now, I did volunteer to do this. But I wished I hadn't. Not that I'm afraid of coming up front, it's just that I'm doing a service next Sunday. I hope to see at least most of you guys, but depends on the weather, and I can understand that. But then I found it real hard to do this. I said, okay, why do I give to the church? And I wrote out a whole bunch of stuff. I got copies of it in here, and then you can see there's lines all through it. And I says, it's easier for me to do the sermon than for me to do this. Because I thought I had to pick one thing to talk about, but I can't do that. There's so many reasons why I come to church, why I give. I give because of the Social Justice Ministry Committee. Oh, I'm sorry, there's no committees no more. Social Justice Ministry. I'd catch myself on that. All the hard work that has been done by this committee. Let's see. It'll take time. The letters and cards that we write to individuals who are in prison. The ARM, which is another ministry, which I probably put a committee at the end of it again. I have to get used to that. The anti-racist ministry, we're ministering with inside of our congregation. The library committee, which I enjoy doing, and you guys need to come down and visit the library. We have books that have been censored. I'm so proud of that. We got books that's been censored. That's another reason why. Our great music committee led Carl, and then I'm so happy about that. I enjoy the music here. Don't you enjoy our music here? Mm-hmm. And I enjoy our choir too, so the choir needs to get another clap too. I also give because of drum, which I've talked about before, and I won't go into details, but all of these things that we are doing inside and outside our committee, that's the reason why I give. I couldn't pick one, and maybe you can pick one, but I just found it difficult to pick one. So that is why. I'm retired now, fully retired, and I have limited income, so my pledge has really dropped. My son felt bad for me, and she says, oh, here, I'll give you $5 to add to your pledge, because I know it means so much to you. And I says, well, why don't you kind of officially join the church? He says, I've been here since I was 3. What do you mean join? I'm already a member. I said, no, you got to do some other things. Like bring me to church more often and stay, instead of just drop me off and kick me to the curb. That's why I give. And I hope you find it in your hearts to try to give a little bit more, because I will be giving it $5 more. It's not a lot to the total, but like I said, I'm retired. Thank you for listening to me.
We are a Unitarian Universalist congregation, a community of children, youth, and adults, a people of many beliefs and traditions, bound not by the specific list of things we believe, but the values we share. Whether you are joining us for the first time or for the 1,000th time, you are welcome here. Whether you believe in God some of the time, all of the time, or none of the time, you are welcome here. Whatever your race, whomever you love, whichever way you move in the world, however much money is in your pocket, you are welcome here. I invite you, when you are ready, to take a breath in and out. As the music begins, let us enter into our service together.
Thank you, choir. It is always a joy to hear you. In just a moment, Ryan here in the sanctuary and Harris at the Admiral will light our chalices, the symbol of our faith. And we light our chalices this morning with these words from poet Amanda Gorman. There is always light, if only we are brave enough to see it. If only we are brave enough to be it. So let us kindle this flame together and find the light that burns within us so that we may be a light in the world.
Opening hymn, number 126 in the gray hymnal, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing. Fount of every blessing, lift our hearts to sing thy praise. Streams of mercy never ceasing, calls out songs of loudest praise. When the hope of life's perfection fills our hearts with joy and love, teach us ever to be faithful. May we still thy goodness prove. Come thou fount of every vision, lift our eyes to what may come. See the lion and the young lamb dwell together in thy home. Hear the cries of war fall silent, and the love grow like the sun. When we all serve one another, then our heaven has begun. Come thou fount of inspiration, turn our lives to higher ways. Lift our gloom and desperation this of this day. Help us bind ourselves in union, help our hands tell of our love. With thy aid, O fount of justice, earth be fair as heaven above.
We covenant to build a community that challenges us to grow and empowers us to honor the truth within ourselves. We will be generous with our gifts and honest in our communication, holding faithful to a love that embraces both diversity and conflict. Called by our living tradition, we will nurture spirituality within a vision of the eternal, living out our inner convictions through struggles for justice and acts of compassion.
I invite you to raise your voices with me once more as we sing our congregational hymn, number 123, Spirit of Life. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Invite those young, embody your spirit up to the front to join me right up here. All right, hold on, my friends, hold on. I will open it when we are ready. Okay. So, this week, we have a very special day coming up on Wednesday. What is the day that we have coming up? It's Valentine's Day, or some people call it Friendship Day. It's a day where we focus on giving and receiving love. And one really important way to give and receive love with those around us is to find joy in other people's joy, find happiness in other people's happiness. Now, there's an Eastern religion called Buddhism that has a special word for this concept, and that word is mudita. Repeat after me, mudita.
Mudita.
So the concept, I'm going to take out one thing at a time, so you're going to have to be patient. The concept of mudita is all about this. If I take your joy and your joy, our joy grows together. Let's say it together. 1, 2, 3. If I take joy in your joy, our joy grows together. You want to hold this for me? Thank you. Now, one thing that really brings me a lot of joy is crocuses. Hold it. Crocuses in the earliest spring. Thank you. Crocus is one of the first beautiful purple with a little bit of yellow flowers that come up. And when I see them in the early spring, it just makes me really happy. And so if I were on an early spring walk with someone and I said, look at the beautiful crocuses, they make me so happy, and then that person felt joy along with me, they would be showing this concept of mudita, finding joy in someone else's joy. So right now, I'm going to give each of you a piece of paper and a crayon, and I'm going to give you a minute to write or draw something that makes you feel joyful. And grown-ups, your task is to write or draw in your mind's eye while the kids are writing and drawing up here. Something that makes you feel happy or joyful. And we're going to be quiet for about a minute while we're doing this. I know quiet can make some of us nervous, so just think of it as another meditation if that helps. All right. I've read crayon.
And on Wednesday, it's a school day, and my share is gonna come. And
Yes, I bet some of you are doing special things at school on Wednesday, too. Okay, so take a moment to write or draw grown-ups in your mind's eye, Something that makes you feel joyful.
I'm gonna draw the sand. I'm gonna draw my favorite dream.
Awesome. I love that. Yeah.
Help me write. Surprise. It kind of looks like the one you write down.
What are you writing?
So it's like of things that you know, like what is over, what is it? I want to know. Oop, I accidentally drew my favorite topic. I know.
Okay, take 30 seconds to find a pausing point, but you can continue these downstairs during Sunday school. More on that in a
I
moment.
need the color blue. Where's the color blue? I need the color blue. Is this blue? That's perfect. I need blue. I need the color yellow. I need blue. It's an octopus right now. It's an octopus.
That's awesome. Okay, so if you want to keep coloring while I talk, that's okay, but we're going to kind of pause this for now, and then you can continue downstairs in a few. I see a butterfly over here. I see, what is that? What is it? A monkey? Oh my gosh, I love monkeys. That's so great. I see reading a book.
I want to make a dinosaur.
We're going to add a dinosaur over here. The beach. Oh, I love the beach. And what is this?
It's an octopus.
An octopus. You just said that. I'm sorry. You know, I'm reading a book about an octopus right now. It's a really good book.
And one of my best dreams about it murders a slime octopus, and I go in it.
That is really cool. Thank you for sharing, Malachi. And I see a picture of a heart and a sun. Is that right, Noah? Awesome. And I see a picture of a tree and some beautiful weather. Thank you for participating with us. All right, so we're hearing and seeing about all of the wonderful things that bring each other, yeah, we'll do a dinosaur in just a minute, that bring each other joy. So let's express some joy in each other's joy. We're gonna say this together one more time. Those of you that can read, you can be leaders with me as we read this. 1, 2, 3. If I take joy in your joy, our joy grows together. All right, my friends, both kids and grown-ups, I challenge you to keep this spirit of taking joy in others' joy, mudita, with you into the rest of your day and week ahead. Before we head downstairs, just a reminder, my spirit play, Windows and Mirrors, and Heeding the Call students, we're all gonna be together in Fleischman Hall today. And those of you who joined me up here, you can bring down the work that you started, the beautiful drawings you started, and you can actually continue them. All right, with that, let's sing the children downstairs to their classes.
Around, yeah, beautiful. So we're talking a lot about pledges today, and we reference this every Sunday because we each make a commitment every year, a pledge to support the ministry of this, our congregation. In addition to this pledge that we make each year, we also take a collection every Sunday so that we can share with those who are doing justice work beyond our walls. In just a moment, you will see a phone number on your screen, and there's also information in your order of service so that you can do a text to give process and make sure you are supporting this work. And for the month of February, we are sharing our plate with the Liberation Library. You've heard a bit about it last week, and then we'll have a guest speaker again next week. But this week, I just want to remind you that this is a organization that is doing amazing work to ensure that young people who are incarcerated in our state get brand new, beautiful books. And while people are incarcerated, it is so important that they have access to things that help them feel free in other ways, and books are a big part of that. And so at this time, I invite Harris to lead our offertory words.
I invite you to join me in reading our offertory words. The words are printed in your order of service and are on the screen. This church is the community of ourselves. Its energy and resources are our energy and resources. Its wealth is what we share. As we contribute to the life of this community, we affirm it and enable its participation in the larger world around us. The offering will now be generously given and gratefully received.
I want to invite you into the spirit of prayer or meditation. Let's begin by breathing together. Try relaxing the muscles in your shoulders. Release the tension in your neck. Maybe feel your feet rooted to the floor, connecting yourself to our beautiful, beloved earth beneath us. We begin in thanks. Thankful for the breath in our lungs, the beauty of our earth, and the strength of this, our beloved community. We hold in our hearts those who care for family and ill health, those who live with grief or chronic pain, those struggling with addiction or illness, seen and unseen. We are with you. For parents and teachers, and all those whose primary spiritual practice is caring for children, we are with you. We pray for our neighbors in prison, for those who are struggling to stay afloat in the midst of poverty, for migrants who are fleeing and seeking, finding new homes in our city among many. We are with you. We pray for all those living in harm's way. Pray for our planet, and commit to work that will lead us away from the harms of climate chaos. As war rages around our world, we pray that wisdom, compassion, and empathy guide the leaders of our world. May they and we be instruments of a just and lasting peace. Our lives are truly blessed by those who knowingly, with curiosity and courage, face their final days. Into this, our shared silence across space, I invite you now to speak aloud the names of anyone you wish to lift up into the loving support of our community. With our deepest compassion, Let us hold in our hearts those named and unnamed, those remembered and those forgotten. Let it be so. Amen, and blessed be. During our ritual of lighting candles for joys and concerns, we want to continue to take care of one another. In the 2U sanctuary, you're invited to come forward and light a candle. And as you end your time of contemplation and candle lighting, we invite you to use the hand sanitizer that's available. For those of us at the Admiral, I invite you to come forward, take a pebble from one bowl and hold it tightly in your hand, putting your energy into that stone, and then knowing your joys and sorrows to be shared by this community, let it go lightly into the other bowl. For those of us on Zoom, please join by sharing your joys and concerns in our chat window, and I will light a candle here to represent your celebrations and sorrows. We hold all of these, our shared joys, celebrations, concerns, and sorrows close to our hearts. Harris, would you share our first reading, please?
Our first reading is a poem by Mary Oliver entitled Oxygen. Everything needs it, bone, muscles, and even while it calls the earth its home, the soul. So the merciful, noisy machine stands in our house, working away in its lung-like voice. I hear it as I kneel before the fire, stirring with a stick of iron, letting the logs lie more loosely. You, in the upstairs room, are in your usual position, leaning on your right shoulder, which aches all day. You are breathing patiently. It is a beautiful sound. It is your life, which is so close to my own that I would not know where to drop the knife of separation. And what does this have to do with love? Except everything. Now the fire rises and offers a dozen singing deep red roses of flame. Then it settles to quietude, or maybe gratitude, as it feeds, as we all do, as we must, upon the invisible gift, our purest, sweet necessity, the air.
Our second reading this morning, can we turn our volume down just a tiny bit? Thank you so much. Is from the ancient Near East poet of the book of Job. Here's chapter 2, verses 11 to 13. Now, when Job's 3 friends heard of all these troubles that had come upon him, each of them set out from their home, Eliphaz the Temanite, Bildad the Shuhite, and Zophar the Naamathite. They met together to go and console and comfort him. When they saw him from the distance, they did not recognize him. And they raised their voices and wept aloud. And they tore their robes and threw dust in the air upon their heads. They sat with him on the ground for 7 days and 7 nights. And no one spoke a word to him, for they saw that his suffering was very great. Let's hear our anthem. choir. Beautiful. This week's sermon comes to you from conversations with our beloved Jill Alfage. At the Fall Fest this past year, Jill won the raffle prize for choosing a sermon topic. Now, so if you don't like it, oof. Not my fault. Not my fault. Just kidding. In the 21st century ministry, text messaging has become an active part of the way that I get to connect with members of our congregation. Jill agreed that I can share some of the text she sent me as she thought about what I might cover in our sermon. I am, unfortunately, unable to address all of what she brought up, but I'm so grateful she took the time to consider not only what she wanted to hear, but what she imagined might be good for our congregation to reflect on together. There are some very big questions here. And while I hope to offer some useful thoughts, each of you will likely have your own answers. One of the beauties of our faith is that we have our own truths and our own theological groundings, a grounding that is made stronger by intertwining the roots of those that we share in our religious community. And so here is the first of Jill's reflections. I was thinking of something like our idea of what we deserve because we live a good life. We do good things, we deserve good fates. Then we look at others who are not doing so well. In a sense, we think they deserve their problems. So then, what is it that we deserve as people living in this beautiful and broken world? How do we decide what we deserve? How do we understand what others deserve? And when there is suffering, because there is suffering, why does it happen? When Jill sent me this reflection, I was really drawn to the second part of it, and I immediately thought of the ancient story of Job, a story with big questions about who deserves what. This is a long-taught story coming from the First Testament, and I do recognize that biblical text is not always the easiest for us to engage with as Unitarian Universalists. That said, the book of Job is one that has spoken to many over centuries. There have been times in my life when I flipped through the pages of Job with a fervor, wondering what this ancient poem might have to teach me about suffering, wondering what this ancient poem might teach me about deservedness, about the nature of divine justice. While I'm a non-theistic person, I can understand the character of God in Job as the vastness of the universe. A universe my faith teaches me is rooted in love, a love that I am not entirely sure is really present in the book of Job. When I was a teenager, the Unitarian Universalist artist and former editor-in-chief at Beacon Press, Goben Stair, was an active member of the congregation I attended in Kingston, Massachusetts. I was not much of an artist myself, but I spent hours with this man trying to build up my skills as a young person, curious about the potential of art in my life. If you've seen my art, I didn't learn very much. But I can remember hanging out in his studio with my art pad, thicker paper so I could explore different mediums like oil paints, pastels, colored pencils. He told me to free draw, just let my mind wander and play with the tools he put in my hands. I made big, broad strokes and a mess of circles. I drew so many different birds and invented a countless number of different machines. Gobin held me with care and compassion, teaching my young self to embrace the possibilities of art. I never felt particularly skilled, but I always felt celebrated in what I created. There was an honoring that Gobin offered me. I tell you all of this because Gobin created an entire art installation about Job. He used his gift to communicate about human suffering. With dark colors, he illustrated the ways humans struggle with the reality of suffering. He used his art to demonstrate the ways humanity navigated the shadow sides of life, shadow sides we've talked about many times before. And he did not offer answers to the questions of human suffering. Rather, he highlighted to the viewer the ways humans struggled with the pains of life. I remember attending the art gallery one Sunday after church, though I can no longer remember what each of the pieces depicted. I do have a distinct memory of a profile of a man leaning over, his face weary, distorted. The figure looked like the embodiment of human aching. As an artist, Gobin was a man who understood human suffering. He lived through his own time and time again. He witnessed the suffering of the world and did what he could to reveal it to others. How can we, as sacred beings, experience such overwhelming suffering? What is really God doing to people as we see this deep brokenness? And is it God at all? And do we believe? Gobin's installation on Job was helping my young self ask big questions, pondering human suffering. The ancient story of Job starts with an adversary, often called Satan or Satan, challenging God to a kind of duel about humanity. If the adversary could cause suffering upon one of God's greatest and most pious servants, that person would turn around and eventually curse God. God agrees to this challenge and chooses Job as the unsuspecting sufferer. Job finds himself losing everything: his family, his livestock, his land, his health. His wife implores him to curse God, but Job refuses to do so. And soon, he's visited by a group of friends, the so-called comforters. We heard the first response of those friends in our second reading this morning. Job's friends turn to him when they first arrive with great empathy, care, and concern. They join him in his grief. They tore their robes and threw dust in the air upon their heads. They loved their friend and wanted to be there for him in his suffering. I wonder, do you have people in your life like that? People who come alongside you and join you in your pain, not trying to fix it, just sitting with you as you grieve and move through your own suffering. Now, unfortunately, Job's friends did not keep up this level of empathy and concern. They began questioning him. They suggested that he must have done something to deserve his suffering. He must have sinned against God. He must have behaved in a way that led to this brokenness in his life. And his friend Eliphaz speaks first. He suggests that those who are righteous receive the reward, and those who have done wrong similarly get paid back for their behavior. He goes like this: "Think now, who that has been innocent has ever perished? Or where were the upright cut off? As I have seen those who plow iniquity and sow trouble reap the same." By the breath of God they perish, and by the blast of anger they are consumed. The roar of the lion, the voice of the fierce lion, and the teeth of the young lions are broken. The strong lion perishes for lack of prey, and the whelps of the lioness are scattered. But let's think about it together. Have you ever known the innocent to perish? Have you ever seen the upright cut off? Is it true that those who plow iniquity and sow trouble reap the same? These questions require an enormous number of judgments. Enormous. Who gets to decide who's innocent? Who defines the most upright? In the book of Job, the answers to these questions are simple. God makes these determinations. In the Jewish community that would have first read the poet Job's words, there was a sense that God's law was what one must obey. This was a covenantal faith that had to be fulfilled by the Jewish people in order to live righteous lives. They had leaders who made it clear, prophets to listen to, and communities to hold one another accountable. To disobey God was to break from innocence. To stray from praising God was to remove oneself from an upright position. But what does all of this mean for us, Unitarian Universalists? What do we do with this lesson? While many and even possibly most of us don't believe in an otherworldly God, I wonder if there are times when we are just as judgmental as the God in Job. I wonder if we assign some people as upright and worthy while others have earned their suffering. Black humanist scholar William Hart argues that atheists often smuggle God in the back door by deifying humanity. And so rather than see ourselves as interconnected parts of all natural existence, we become higher judges with infallibility in our righteousness. We make our human selves godly and unhumble. Do we find ourselves playing that character of God in Job? Do we mete out the punishment to those around us? As a justice-seeking congregation, we often answer these questions in the context of societal oppression. Due to systems created by humans, there is human suffering. We can find answers to much of our own suffering by focusing on what has been done and created by other humans. But I don't think that's sufficient. Are there ways that we suffer that are not necessarily created by systemic injustice? What of heartbreak? What of grief? What of loneliness? What of longing? What about when it seems like everything is just going wrong, no matter what we do? The next text that Jill sent me went in a very different direction. Rather than being concerned with God's injustice or suffering imposed by another, she added the following reflection. I also recently saw the opera Cinderella by Rossini. Her wicked stepfather and sisters treated her terribly. When the prince asked her what punishment she wanted meted out to them, she responded, "My revenge is forgiveness." To her, justice was not responding in kind, but moving on. It's often said that forgiveness is of greater healing value to the wronged than it is to those who cause suffering or pain. The person who chooses to forgive is transformed by their healing, and they live more authentically because of it. I wonder if Job forgave God. The book ends with Job acquiescing, though that seems quite different than forgiveness. God gives Job a great wealth of riches to honor his faithfulness, But even God could not undo the suffering that had been done. Was this a kind of godly reparations? What does forgiveness do for you? What of forgiveness in the face of suffering? If you find yourself walking west on Barry towards the Walgreens, you will stumble upon some graffiti on the sidewalk that reads simply, "Forgive." My theology teaches me that all life is sacred and deserving of love, no matter what. That said, I am not always able to do the transformative work of forgiving. In the face of suffering caused by others, I find myself at times lacking the capacity to forgive. I do, though, like to imagine that our human communities are powerful enough that I do not necessarily have to be the one to forgive those who harmed me. What I mean is that I pray that those who have harmed me are in community with others who can do the forgiving of them themselves, holding them with love and care. It would be a little bit better if they also held them accountable. Regardless, though, I believe forgiveness can lie beyond those of us who've been harmed. Forgiveness can be offered as a recognition of one's flawed humanity by people who love them. We need not always be expected to forgive when we're not ready, and we may never be ready for some incidences of harm. There is beauty in Rossini's Cinderella's vision of forgiveness as revenge, beauty in moving on, and it's okay. It's okay if you're not there. You're not less beloved, no less evolved, and no farther away from your own healing. Now I want to thank Jill for big topics to reflect on. Unitarian Universalism is a tradition that is rooted in one another's truths. We are a congregationalist tradition because we put the power of the church into the members of the congregation. Ministers are responsible for providing leadership that is reflective of the members' vision for the faith. I love getting to reflect on the things you bring up to me. One of my greatest mentors, the Reverend Dr. Hope Johnson, taught me that if you do not know what to preach about, you're not doing enough pastoral care. People at church shape the life of the church, including the sermons ministers should be writing. And so this afternoon, we're going to celebrate even more of our congregationalist tradition. We're going to talk about financially resourcing our congregation. We are the ones who make this church happen. We are the ones shaping Unitarian Universalism. We are articulating our collective vision of a faith community, and we do so in profound ways. Your voice is needed in this conversation. Without the people of the church, there is no church. So come and tell stories together. Come and celebrate our church. And know that we are stronger because of you. Let it be so, and amen.
I invite you to rise now in body or in spirit and join me in singing our closing hymn, number 131, Love Will Guide Us. love will guide us. Peace has tried us, hope inside us, we'll lead the way on the road from greed to giving. Love will guide us through the hard night.
That was lovely. I invite you to rest your hands upon your heart, or clasp hands with those you're sharing your life with in these pandemic times, and hear these words of benediction from the lyrics of Tracy Chapman's Fast Car. And thank you, Carl, for playing it for us earlier. And your arm felt nice wrapped round my shoulder, and I'm feeling that I belonged. I had a feeling I could be someone, be someone, be someone. Go in peace, beloveds. Get some soup and come right on back in here.